So today, thank you for joining us. We're going to jump right in. I know I cut Jackie off, but we noticed she was having some issues there. So today we are going to focus on 4 strategies to grow your moving business. And we are so grateful to have Beau and Ryan on because they've been in the industry well over a decade each. Beau's run his own moving company. Ryan has been front and center he did work with Naglee as well before even jumping over to the software side of town. So these guys are going to share with us their battle stories, so to speak, what they learned along the way. We expect that you'll pick up a few golden nuggets from each one of the topics. And the 4 topics that we're going to cover today is 1, winning more business. We know this is a busy season. We are all jumping in, wanting to win more business, and it can be a stressful time, but it's going to be a time that we're going to be able to learn a lot and share some things today to hopefully during this busy season, take a little bit of your stress down. Second, we're going to go over performing quicker estimates. We know volume of estimates. When you're going out to estimates, what can you do to save a little bit of time and perform those quicker and still win the business that you need? 3, we're going to talk about providing industry-leading customer service. That's what we're all about. That's our reputation. We want to make sure happy customers lead to more customers. We're going to talk a little about the good, the bad, and the ugly about what we can do to make sure we have award-winning customer service. And finally, getting organized, organizing your jobs, your schedules, your billing, and lessons learned through that. We're going to spend a few minutes on each topic. If you do have questions, please submit those. We will take those at the end. Maybe Jackie will let me know if there's a hot question coming in. We'll break in to do that. And then at the end, for those after the educational side, we're going to do a quick tech demo. For those that would like to stick around, we'd love to have you there. So let's jump in, guys. Are you ready, Beau and Ryan? You guys are going to be in the hot seat today. But we are going to talk about first, winning more business. I literally just got off with a franchise owner of College Hunks, and he was like, James, I drive over 40 miles sometimes to win the business, and it's stressful. I need to find some ways to win that business and find smart ways to do it. And Beau, you love to talk about learning while you're losing. So maybe let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, thank you, James. Appreciate you kicking it over. And I'm sure, when we talk about maximizing sales and minimizing stress, it feels like it's on 2 sides of the seesaw. So realistically, if you boil it down, success is found in the struggle. Let's face it, if you're not struggling, you're typically not learning. If everything comes easy, then you guys not only are in the wrong business, but we're all in the wrong business along those lines. So learn while you're losing. And we've used this philosophy a lot in coaching. We've used it all the way through. And it's where's the opportunity to win more business is typically found in focusing on not everything, but just those 1 or 2 or 3 things. And we always use the analogy inside, 2 miles on the track and 2 miles on the treadmill, you're equally tired, but one of you are standing in the same place. So how do you keep strategizing in a way to realize that you don't cast the wide net to handle your business all the way? You narrow that all the way in. And, I'd like to share a story, James, where we really learned that. We had an account that we had serviced for over 30 years. They had multiple account service providers as well. And Ryan was a part of the team at the time. And we really sat back to say, hey, how can we win more of this? How can we get more? And we had to step back and realize we had to be different. We couldn't be what everybody else was providing. And it created us to change our lens. We weren't just a service provider. We had to be a service partner. And what that came was we had to go find who the key stakeholders were. We had to go and figure out what were they solving for, not just what were we solving for and what we were offering. What was the real problem that they were solving from an enterprise, and how did our solution fit? So it came back to that success was found in the struggle, because we were struggling to continually find out how our services would fit, but it was the approach we were taking. And after we sat back and identified those gaps, and we sat back and created those relationships, meaningful relationships, by understanding we could give them tangible results to reducing expenses, tangible results to speeding up relocation, tangible results to having a one-point contact that helped reduce the stress of their transferring folks, we were able to really go with new strategy that now in today, they transition to be an exclusive type use where we sit in strategy sessions and we sit in planning sessions, that now we continue to be a driver of what our services are in alignment to what their mission is. So I love that theme of maximizing sales and minimizing stress, but sometimes just moving faster isn't moving smarter. So you have to really sometimes sit back and get that full peripheral, and then understand success is in that struggle, and then how do you adapt to what that need is.
I love that. I love that. It's looking across your accounts, right? Where are the gaps? Who can you sit down with? Who's giving you that repeat business? Where can you draw more out by really listening? And I know, Ryan, you want to talk about winning the right business on the heels of what Beau's talking about.
Yeah, no doubt. And it'd be hard to follow that one, Beau, but kind of a little piece of that is, it's things that we really dove deeper into the accounts we have. So as he said, rather than cast this net and reach out and try to get 10, 15, 20, 30 different accounts, let's try to dive deep in all the different alleys and zones at these particular accounts that we have, and let's do them really, really well. Again, it kind of goes back to Beau's, casting that large net. There's no need. You can dive right into what you currently have, those current accounts, work them, get to know them, find out what they need, figure out what they need, and then adapt and make that happen. And we did that really, really well over at Naglee, and they're still continuing to do it well today. But kind of a second prong of that is winning more business. We all know in that 120 days of summer, your local, your intra, your interstate business is going to be there. Everybody's going to win that. But also, I always to look at is what was in our area. We had a lot of hotels. We had a lot of colleges. We had 3 different college towns. We had a lot of factories, and really large kind of, mass retail stores. So with that, what else can we win with all this additional things in our area? With the hotels, you have your FF&E, your rebuilds, your remodels, your colleges. We did a ton of work at universities and colleges with dorm furniture, new building builds and what have you, but in factories, final mile milk runs. So you can win more business, but what we did is we started off just diving deep into what we had, and then slowly understanding kind of our geographical area as to what other businesses out there to help us win even more.
I love that. And you're talking also about, like, there is no slow season, right? How do you do that? Like, I mean, let's jump into that for a little bit. Maybe talk about how do you make more Christmases, as we were calling it when we first connected about this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, Beau he was awesome with this one here. So it's, we all know that 120 days, it is just, it's to the moon, and that's everybody. But how do you stop going to the moon for 120 days? How do you kind of level out that plane, right? I mean, so one that kind of ties into that diversification, but you just can't do a mass diversification because you kind of get into what Beau was saying earlier of just kind of casting that wide net. So, and this is where I'm going to punt it to Beau, because he does some awesome pieces with the Christmas and the end caps and kind of that shopping experience. But basically, how each line of business, it doesn't matter if it's local, intra, commercial, fine arts, final mile, FF&E, they all have their special Christmases, right? And this is where I'm going to kind of punt this to Beau, if that's all right with you, just because you do such an awesome job of, kind of diving this out for us.
Sure, no problem, Ryan. So as my background told you, came from Walmart and Sam's Club. So this is a little bit of a philosophy that we got. So you probably think, well, how's this going to align to the moving business? Well, Ryan keeps talking about the 120 days or 12 weeks. So a little bit of my knowledge, as I learned this industry, I went, wow, why does this entire industry go absolutely bonanza over this period of time? And historically, depending whatever size your moving company is, even bad movers do well in the summer. That's the reality. It's what happens to all movers beyond that window. So we all know how crazy the consumer gets. Let's take it out of the moving world. Look what happens at Christmas. Sometimes when you guys are late buying a Christmas gift, you're buying a knickknack for $10 off whatever you walk in because you forgot to buy. So anybody can sell something during Christmas. The key is, how do you step back out of the 12 calendar year and break it up into the quarters and then say, hold on, now that my stress has come down, now I'm looking at the holistic aspect of my business. How many of my lines of service or potential new lines of service make sense more? So for example, I don't sell Easter eggs at Christmas, but Easter eggs will sell tremendously during April leading into March. So where's your Easter egg service line? where do you maximize your service line in that time period to potentially maximize those leads and risks? And if you look back at any major holiday, go Halloween, go Easter, go all that, and draw that parallel to what your revenue lines are. And then where you know you're truly winning is what every streamline you have, revenue line you have, when is its potential Christmas? So when do you maximize the most volume potential in that time frame? And then when do you know to turn it down? I don't want Christmas, lights out when I'm trying to sell pool chemicals. It's not going to make sense. Everything has a right place at a right time. And then how do you know when to widen that gap and narrow that gap, but always keep a consistent message throughout? So we always joked, every service line has a Christmas. How do we start establishing those timelines so we can now be a sustainable business 12 months out of the year and not just a seasonal business going crazy for 12 weeks?
And Beau, what service lines do you service right now in your business?
Sure. So residential household, but then also our account household. We have commercial, which then kind of scales from more larger commercial to smaller commercial. We have our fine arts group, which is kind of a one-off. They have their own seasonality overall. Obviously, we're a military provider too, so we see some ebbs and flows within there. And then we start getting into some logistics aspects, some of the last mile stuff, some of the warehouse and storage stuff. So all of this stuff, James, requires a plan, requires to sit down and look. And a lot of these things we didn't just walk into out of 1912, 100 plus years. When I got there in 2015, we were 80% household, and it just did not make sense. And you can't hit the switch overnight, but collectively, when you start breaking them down, you can do 10% more here, do 10% less here. The other aspect, and we'll get into, is the capacity aspect. You can't do 100% in everything. It's not going to happen. So how do you build that plan and then start adjusting? And you will see your stress level, I guarantee you, will go down as well.
Yeah, I love that. And you're just talking about the breadth of like all the different service lines. They don't happen overnight. You pick your next spot. Let's just make sure if you're residential, you're not lumping another Christmas on top of a Christmas. What'll make you more stressed? Like find the one that makes sense for you, where you're at, what you think you can actually do, and then move into that and getting some assistance. Because some of us that are on the call are just getting their, guy I was on a call earlier with a moving guy. He just started into the moving industry this year. He's focused in on residential, but he's already thinking about what do I do, with this slow season coming up, how do I make it a new Christmas?
James, I love the word breath, and it comes back. You're either snorkeling or you're scuba diving. Snorkeling, when you have to come up and take a breath. Scuba diving, you go down too deep, you're going to die if you run out of air. So how, as you're getting into these new lines, do you stay at that scuba level until you're really comfortable the snorkeling level and not the scuba level? Because that's the fastest way to drown yourself during a capacity explosion when you're not balanced out.
Yeah, smart diversification, right? Making sure we're picking our spots and growing our business in an intelligent and thoughtful way. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to get into our second topic now, is performing quicker estimates or more estimates, or thinking of how do I utilize maybe technology to get organized and to grow. I think, Beau, you really talk about the intersection of technology and adoption, where everyone wants the tech, but, maybe talk a little about that.
Sure. And I'm sure we all have kids, or some have kids, or you're around kids, or this or that. So it's a great intersection. You've heard a lot of people say, well, they're so tech savvy. No, they're not. They're tech dependent. You pull tech from them, they don't know how to function. Well, now marry that to an industry that has been tech adverse for a long time. So now we are building this intersection of, hey, we can see where tech will add value by speeding things up, by reducing touches, by doing all this. But you have a huge change management aspect that wants adoption to it. So everybody wants change management until the change actually starts happening. Then everybody wants to go back to how we always did things. So I'll tell you, we've gained tech the same way we have gained our diversification in our service lines. Small pieces, figuring out exactly what we want to solve, and then really generating win-win situations where people can see how they contribute meaning inside your moving organizations, your customers, how it becomes less touches, more value, and they can spend more time doing the things they love to do in your business versus spending the things they have to do in your business. And when we started to evaluate some of these silos, they were spending more time on the things they had to do versus the things they love to do. And then that removed that experience to the customer, and the customers felt that. So as business owners, as managers, as leaders, the more we can remove those tactical pieces of what have to be done and blend it into an automation with consistency that we can give back and be more customer centric and listen, we're going to win. And that's where we've been on that trail, James, at Naglee, to adopt technology to enhance the customer experience and overall efficiency and operations of what we do.
And I think that probably leads to a good story. You and I were talking about like doing the, season in review, after that peak season, looking back and doing, a time study. Can you talk a little about how you guys approach that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, back into successes in the struggle with there too. I think too many times we all do it's over, we survived, we lived, and then we hibernate, and then we go back, and we're maybe lucky to remember 25% of the things we did, but we only remember the things that smacked us right in the face of the terrible days. So we really got methodical in an aspect that we built time in to reflect, true reflection, organized reflection. Hey, how long does it take to do task A? How long does it take to do task B? And we literally call it an exercise of what worked, what didn't work, getting them all whiteboarded, and then what can we enhance? And sometimes just doing that time with all your folks. This isn't just a C-suite exercise. This isn't just a boots on the street. This is an exercise at every tier of your organization that you get this list created, and you'll start to see the patterns of how these puzzle pieces fit together. Then you shop that against some of the technology and some of the tools that are out there and say, wow, this one tool could take away 30% of these headaches that we have established from this list. But again, James, this is planning, this is mindful, this is strategic planning that sometimes too many people say, I don't have time for all this. You don't have time to not do this if you're not going to be thinking long term, is my challenge to this.
And for the folks that are getting overwhelmed right now, like, oh my God, my business is doing so much. Don't choose everything. Choose two things and get the team, hey, we're going to tackle the front end and the back end. We're going to go after our estimates. We're going to go after customer satisfaction. What's that going to improve? What's our current process? How can we do it better? How can we do it faster? Because we know at the back end can lead to more referrals. We know at the front end it leads to more winning of the business. So, okay, you didn't take out your operations this time. All right, well next season or next after you tackle those first two, and that way the team can move with you and you don't overwhelm your team. Although as a business owner you want to knock everything out and be the perfect. You can't do it. It's not realistic. Can't do it. So, I mean, Ryan, you've done this for 12 years, man. You are in it. You've been doing it since the original, the caveman, right? Where you're doing the cube sheets, man, and the manual process. Talk about that for us for a little bit.
The caveman, James, is the correct term for that. I mean, I can't tell you when I first started. And again, this is why I love this thing here. When I first started, it was you were literally you're looking at your paper schedule every morning, going, okay, I've got one 30 minutes away. I've got one estimate 20 minutes away. I've got one 5 minutes, or whatever the case may be, and getting in the car, driving to the customer's home, hoping that they didn't forget about the moving company coming. So now you're kind of making the phone call ahead of time. You've got dogs kind of gnawing on your leg as you're finally getting into the house, and you can only do so many in a day as it was, right? I mean, so that whole process of the manual cube sheet, and then what we did actually was kind of one step of our competition. I would bring my giant tariff book, like with a briefcase. I don't know if I looked like I was selling vacuums or whatever, but we tour the home, do all the manual processes, and then we'd sit at the kitchen table and I would flip through tariff books. Not only was it awkward, you're trying to speed up, the customer might have to go back to, they're on their lunch break or whatever the case was, but mistakes happened. When I was working with that cube sheet, when I was going out to these customers' homes, it was easy to get distracted between the dog biting and the customer saying, hey, I've got 5 minutes before I have to pick up my kid or what have you. And at the end of the day, we could only do 4 or 5 estimates a day. And just think, by the time I got home, after making all the notes on the cube sheet, transferring that over to other sheet, it was a disaster. I wasn't necessarily a disaster by any means, but it was just, it worked, but it didn't work well. So that's where we really had to leverage that technology and, you know, get these virtual surveys. I mean, the virtual survey was huge, and we were one of the first that jumped on that. And I was one of the first disbelievers going, there's no way, because I always took great pride in my cube sheets and how accurate I was, and Beau can attest with that. And that's the only thing I'll toot my horn on is I was super accurate when it came to walking through those homes. So of course, me, I'm going, there's no way that this virtual walkthrough is going to do better than what I do. So I was a skeptic. I wasn't a believer at first. And I'll tell you, James, it made all the difference in the world. I was tighter, I was neater, I was straighter. The notes were typed versus handwritten. Sometimes I write well, sometimes I don't. I wasn't losing notes, right? So it made everything so much quicker. Now enter the move management system. So not only am I doing that virtual survey through my move management system, I'm also able to provide a quote within, 2-3 minutes after the fact. So what was 4 to potentially 6 estimates a day, again, depending on the geographical area that I was dispatched to that day. And, trust me, some days I was like this. I don't know where I was going, right? So tying this all in, leveraging that technology, utilizing the virtual surveys and move management system, we were cranking, it's been months since I've been there, but 8 to 10 estimates and quotes a day at a minimum, I would say. They were accurate. The customer was happier. And again, it's that kind of speed to market piece. And we all know this as movers. I still consider myself a mover, always will be. But during that 120 days in peak, customers truly want 2 things. They want to know their price and their move date. And the faster you can get that date and that cost and that price to them, the faster you're going to win. And again, our competition was not doing that. We were, and again, tying it back into winning more business, leveraging that technology and having a bunch of fun with it, and it works.
And, for change management is hard, right? Especially as an owner, you want to avoid all risk. Each one of those deals is dollars, for the business, for the families that you support. So, part of it too is we always talk about, the crawl, walk, run. What does crawl look like in this case? Let's do it on one of the small ones, right? Where I would have had to drove out to an apartment 30 miles away. That might be a good one to try. That's where we just and then you gain your confidence, get your sea legs going, and then you're starting to gain confidence in that. And then as you see it, seeing is believing, right? Hearing you say it, Ryan, I think a lot of oh, that sounds great. But then it's how do I get going if I've never done it before? So yeah. I think that's a way to kind of really approach it in a thoughtful, de-risked way.
Absolutely. The ultimate piece, I think, for me, and Beau can attest to this, it truly gave me time back. There were days that I'd leave the office, I wouldn't even come in the office. I'd leave the house at 7:30. I wouldn't get back till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. But it's when is a customer get their estimate at that point? Because you still have to scan it. You still have to use the carbon copy. So that time back for me, especially being, smaller moving company, was priceless. That time back allowed me to kind of tying it back into winning more business, to dive deeper into the accounts that we had rather than casting that net and grabbing more. That time back allowed me to dive deeper, to win more business, and ultimately we're winning a bit more business and utilizing that technology. The customers were just even happier.
I love it. And as we shift into the next topic, which is providing industry-leading customer service, I know, Beau, you wanted to talk about, again, 2 things when it comes to excellent customer service: listening and communicating. So maybe you can start off with listening and then maybe tell us a story about communicating, Beau.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I do this always on a parallel of what I've learned. And I could say, after the double-digit years in moving, that I am a mover now as well, maybe a transplant, maybe adopted, however you would stay on there. But I almost feel like I'm bilingual too. I'm bilingual from an aspect that I've been in an industry that touched the entire nation, the entire world along those lines. So, and it's so interesting how those parallels run. And one of the biggest lessons that I would say as feedback to this organization or to this industry is, how do you truly become customer centric? And to boil that down is really, how do we do more listening than telling? And I would challenge, step back and look at your processes. And sometimes in a conversation with a potential client, do you listen? Just listen to your folks, listen to yourself. Do you find yourself doing more telling the customer what they need, or do you find yourself actually listening more to what they're trying to solve, or realizing they don't even know what to ask? So sometimes leading by the questions we ask and then truly listening, I think will give you more fruit than you may realize versus just going through a script and going through a script. And I've heard these scripts over and over again. And I tell you, it's hard. It takes patience. And I know this is an industry that sometimes there isn't a lot of patience because we run at either 10,000 miles per hour or we're idle or we're at happy hour. That's the reality. I mean, this is the wide range of what we get, but really listening to that. And I will tell you the one aspect, just a little carve out from that, is speaking a common language. So I joked when I got to Naglee a little bit from a history standpoint on there. I said, wow, I said, it's like a tribe of, like the Aborigines here. And they all looked at me with their heads sideways, like, what do you mean? I said, well, for what you don't know about the Aborigines, it's actually quite awesome, because it was the first indigenous group to be able to navigate the outback in Australia without dying and never used any electronics or anything. So you say, well, how is that? Well, they taught their children from infancy all the way through their life. They learned the mapping of the outback by the songs they taught them, their nursery songs. So they would learn the songs as a child, and by the time they were an adult, they didn't get lost out there and die from dehydration. However, we don't have the autonomy to take a mover who is a baby and sing the song of moving until they're 35 years old to then take over the company. So how do we transition this to make sure that we use tools and we speak in a common language that all of our customers understand? And I'll just give you one little one, James, on there that just drive me nuts. I never knew what a delivery spread was. That's one language that used to drive me crazy. And I would say, what are you guys talking about? What is this delivery spread? And not just me, I sat and listened to about 20 calls with people who would get frustrated, this and that, consumers that come back and go, what do you mean delivery spread? Even though we said it 8 or 9 times through our processes, it just did not register. So we changed that to delivery window. 90% of any service company, delivery company there in the industry as whole will tell a consumer delivery window. And it was amazing the level of adoption, James, by just changing our terminology and aligning to what our customers already know and speaking a language that was common versus speaking a language that was just produced in that industry, how we removed a lot of obstacles along those lines. So probably a long thing to get to that, but that common language and learning how to speak to what your consumer is looking for is a huge advantage that this industry sometimes creates walls with.
Yeah, I actually think I want to sit on this one a little bit more. I don't want to just drive through communication. Ryan, I want to turn over to you because you work pretty hard with your teams, and yourself personally as you communicate with your customers. Can you tell us why you did that? What's the point? What's the value of that to your team and most importantly to your customer?
I think, again, it ties back into that language. And again, I can stories for days, years, months, weeks, or what have you of learning this as I kind of grew up in the industry of just basic things when it comes to packing. If you ask your first time customer that's moving or what is packing, they think it's putting the content onto the truck. Again, our language is putting material into the boxes. And I'll never forget this story. I was up in Ithaca, New York, beautiful area, not too far from where I'm right here now. And I was working with I would say, very wealthy family, and they were, getting ready to move, and I'm communicating as how this move's going to go based on the language that I kind of learned to know in the industry. And I hit that roadblock, and I said, hey, your items are going to end up going to the DA. And I remember they looked at me and they were just like, the district attorney? What is the district attorney doing? But how are they involved with this move? And I'm like, no, your destination agent. And they're just like, what's a destination agent? And I'm just like, and it was at that point, I'm just going, wow, you're kind of born and bred with this type language. And it's hard to do. This is how we chat in the office. It's how we communicate. But what Beau did really, really well with Naglee is we stopped that industry speak and we stopped it kind of right in-house. And we worked really on, instead of just communicating to, whether it's our employees or the customer, what have you, Beau really pushed that communicating through. And that was huge. And again, that really, it sounds very minor, but that really flipped your 5 stars, from a 4.2 up to a 4.9. I mean, really, really quickly, just being able to communicate our language to them and just kind of throwing that language out and speaking as easily and as open as we could.
Yeah, and from a human standpoint, who feels smart when you use industry language and who feels dumb? Well, your team feels smart. Well, who feels dumb? The customer. We don't want our customer feeling dumb because we act like we all, it's not thoughtful. You know, I think it takes more thought to explain it like I'm five, is what we tell it, like explain it. It's actually more thoughtful to do it that way. And Beau, you like to talk about, you know, giving the customers a shopping experience. I know it's your background coming from Walmart, Sam's Club. Maybe you can talk about how you've applied that to the moving company.
Yeah, James, absolutely. Thanks for teeing that up. So one of the struggles that we had that we were always conquering from the world I came from was who was coming in from just a transactional type aspect to into a store or to there versus having that experience. And the experience for a shopper coming in at times, and let's face it, sometimes I'm probably like many on the call. I want to get in, I want to get the milk, I want to get out and hope my car doesn't get whacked by a car. I'm there with you. But there's other people, large one, they want to go in and it wants to be visual. They want to taste stuff. They want to see stuff. They want to touch stuff. They want to pick stuff up. They want to ask. So where we tried to do that was, as we listened back to where it was at, what did the great experience look like? So not only back to Ryan's point of getting a 5-star, what made that 5-star? What were the ingredients of that 5-star? Then we applied that ingredients back into the experience that way. And as Ryan was talking about, just aligning that verbiage and that language, really walking our customers through from their perspective, James, of how this is going to work. Hey, and I use the retail world of this, saying, hey, you know, when you walk through the store and put things in your cart, you know, that's kind of what our guys will be doing when they come into your house. They're going to walk through and put things in boxes. We're just going to have a lot of carts sitting in your living room. Or on the flip side of the equation, if it's a PBO order, again, a pack by owner, because we're using an acronym, if you're going to do it, we're going to give you a whole bunch of carts and you're going to put those all in. But then when you get the cart up front, when in your shopping experience, they all have to get rang up, because that's where we're going to get your inventory. If we miss something, we don't ring it up. If we put 2 things in, we overcharge you. So your same shopping experience of why it's so detailed at the register is very similar to what we do as well, depending on what kind of ingredient you're in. So we're going to take that time to make sure we're accurate. And we're also going to make sure we take that time that we don't put the milk on top of your eggs, or we don't put, you know, things on top of your bread, because there's fragile items and there's not. So all of a sudden, we're seeing a lot of correlations between someone's house and what they do every Sunday, because everybody's pissed off when they get home and their eggs are cracked because they put the Campbell soup cans on top of it. And the first thing we do is well, that new bagger, that new cashier had no idea what they were doing. So how do we get through that aspect of coming through? And once we kind of drew that parallel, and here's the difference, not many people when they're shopping are stressed out of their minds, James. Most people when they're moving are stressed out of their minds with that. So the more preparation and the more counseling we can do in the beginning and make it real, make it tangible, make it something fun that they all understand, that harmony and story goes so much easier. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And not just us learning to do this, but our entire team, anyone who's going to touch a customer, knowing that process, because we know we communicate and we tell people exactly what we're doing with their valuable items, that we're building trust. And ultimately, we know trust equals dollars. People are going to vote with their dollars, and they're going to vote, I trust Beau because I know what he's going to do with my stuff, and I'm going to trust that he's good. That's what they're doing. They're voting with their trust. So we're taking time to build the trust. Now, I want to hit one more topic. We're going to hit this one briefly because I want to leave some time for Q&A. So we're going to maybe hustle through the last one a little bit more. The last bullet we want to talk about is staying organized. And you know, Ryan, you're going to talk a little about it's hard to stay organized. Maybe you can jump in first with organization and how you tackle that.
Again, I guess that you almost said, great question, James, but is that hard to stay organized pre or post technology? Obviously, pre-technology, yeah, I thought I was organized. We thought we were organized, but again, multiple folders, 40 some odd sheets of paper. I mean, I tell you, we had more pages of paper in a move folder than when I bought my first house. So a $5,500 move, this much paper, you buy X amount of dollar home, it was insane, right? So again, leveraging that technology, eliminating folders, getting everything basically visible. So ops knows what's in the pipeline with sales. Sales knows what kind of ops is doing. And overall, Beau, the pilot, can basically see how that plane is flying that particular day, that week, that month, or what have you. But leveraging that technology, introducing a solid move management program for us truly helped us get super, super organized.
I love that. I love that. And Beau, you're going to end with a story, the master of analogies here.
Okay.
Take us through your Olympic-sized pool analogy. I love this.
I love it. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So what we came through, and again, always, as hopefully you can see, what I'm saying tries to align. I want my audio to match my video, no pun intended, with a virtual conference. However, you know, how do we get to things that relate? So what Ryan was just talking about, what we diagnosed in the moving industry overall was the amount of silos. And those silos, different ones had really long walls, and so your visibility really got foggy, almost non-existent. So the analogy of what we came back is we adopted technology. The number one solve we were looking, not just for being intuitive, but how did we create global visibility? And one of the best global visibilities that we could draw a parallel to was, think about a pool, especially an Olympic size pool that has a tremendous amount of lanes with top level athletes trying to go as fast as they can from point A to point B. But if you were actually trying to ref that or watch that, and there was giant walls there, how would you know what athlete was winning, what athlete was not? Hey, which athlete was drowning because they jumped in wrong? You lose sight. So we've allowed this technology to be both strategical and tactical from an Olympic-sized pool to be able to say, hey, at any time, we can watch all of the lanes. Now, not only are we watching all the lanes, we're watching the lanes for safety. We're watching the lanes for growth. We're watching the lanes for speed. We're watching the lanes for quality. We're making sure the pool's not turning green. We're watching all these different things that we call dashboards to have KPIs or key performing indicators to what makes this pool function, both for the athlete, both for the consumer and everything else. So we overlap that to our business. And then we said, hey, if we looked at our business as a pool right now, do we have views on safety? Do we have the view on how our sales are trending? Do we have views on how our people are feeling, how our customers are feeling? So as we start building all of these lanes, we realized, James, all of a sudden, real quick, we couldn't see from one side of the pool to the other side. So we actually had to go backwards to go forward and get everything in harmony and synchronization, so then we could move the whole thing up. And then it was easier to add lanes than it was to always try to maintain lanes. And that's how we started to use visibility and technology to win differently and have a new way of working.
I love it. I love it. Guys, we're rolling. I mean, we have been moving, and hopefully everyone's been getting some great nuggets. We've been getting a lot of questions. I've asked Jackie to just send me some questions because her internet has been an issue, but she's been taking the questions that we've been getting from the audience, and here's a few of them. We're just going to do some quick hits, guys. So what we'll do is we'll spend the next about 5 minutes doing quick hit questions, and then we'll spend the last 5 minutes just jumping in and doing a quick technology demo. And we'll try to end a little early for everybody. So first question that came in was for you, Beau, and also Ryan, because it's both from Naglee. The person said, what other phrases and lingo did you get rid of at Naglee? They said, I was personally surprised about the term shipper, for example. So what other, they're taking notes, like what other language do I kind of get rid of here? Tell me, Beau.
The ones that jumped out the most, because it's been such a journey that we have gone on, I would say where we really targeted was almost what Ryan just said. There was van line industry. So OAs, DAs, anything with an acronym is probably where we started. Then in the military world, they had their whole set of acronym. And, we used to joke and say, well, what's the difference between a military chair, an international chair, and a domestic chair? It's still a chair. So how do we start building it down? Now, we understand that language can't just go away, because our billing folks still needed to understand that certain forms correlated, there's compliance pieces. So we didn't do that. We just became very sensitive to creating a second set of ears that anytime we talk to a consumer or we talk to a new hire, that if these terms were blended in, we created a stop sign and just said, whoa, 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 hold on. And we flip the question again, lead by the question you ask that new person, ask that customer, hey, do you know what this means? Because most of the time they'll do exactly what we all do. Yeah, no, ask them. And then they go, no, I don't know. I just didn't want to seem, James, like you said, I didn't want to seem dumb. Help them win. And then you will see, you will illuminate so many more vocabulary words in your building that you have an option to change if you want, that would be more customer friendly.
I love it. Just implement the swear jar, right? If I hear you on the company talking to the customer, there's goes a fuck in the swear jar, right? It's a new version of it. So I love that. And Ryan, I mean, the questions are coming, so we're going to run and gun here. Ryan, somebody heard you say move management system. They're like, what does that include? What's a move management system? Because they might still be using the paper or, a Google spreadsheet. What's a move management system?
Basic movement. So imagine whoever asked the question, great question. So imagine everything that you do day in, day out. So all the manual writing. So whether it be your estimates, your lead generation, your finance, your dispatch, your operations, your sales, your quoting, your reports, your data. Imagine having that all tied up into one platform. You log in, it's there. So I guess kind of a basic piece, move management system is everything that you're currently doing now in multiple different, whether you're in Excel, Google Docs, or carbon copies or whiteboards, bottle all of that up and put it into one platform. That would be my definition of a move management software system. But Beau, I'm sure Beau might even have something even crazier, but I don't know how we are for time.
Yeah, and we are kind of close. So Beau, I'll take that answer because the question is like, hey, Beau, what technology are you using, at your business with what Ryan's talking about?
So the ones we're using, we're use Supermove. We've been with Supermove from one of the very beginning pieces. We use Supermove, which we have seen been a large end. We use Yembo, which is a surveying system that has some AI built into it. We use some accounting aspect systems for expense management versus the old school Comdata, everybody hitting the ATM and having 8,000 expense sheets out there. There's several expense pieces that we use technology-wise. So really, our technology has been built into based off of the problems we've had and then going to market to go. But if we were going to start small and narrow, and I'm not just plugging Supermove, go out there and shop it around. There's several others on there. That Supermove system and a great surveying system, those two are going to win the majority of the technology that you need.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start, right? It's just let's make sure we're getting everything centralized and let's make sure we're trying to use some things that are going to save us some time. So thank you for sharing that. And so what we're going to do with the last 5 minutes, hey, first of all, guys, thanks so much. I mean, we've gotten a ton out of this, and we always get on webinars like, hey, can someone show us some tech? So we're going to spend the next really 5 minutes showing off a little bit of the technology for surveying tool. And this is, where we're going to go. But Beau, Ryan, you guys you're awesome. Feel free to hop in while I'm doing a demo, like, oh yeah, you make a comment. But I'm going to share my screen and kind of show folks what survey tools that moving companies are using. So, you guys should be able to share my screen. So this is the LiveSwitch platform here. This is what movers are using to do those surveys. Like we talked about, I was just on with someone from College Chunks, like, James, I'm driving 40 miles just to win business. How can I find a faster way to win the business? And they are using LiveSwitch. So the way to do this and the way that our movers use it is in 3 ways. One, they'll send a text, and there's no software download. It doesn't matter if you got an Android, an iPhone, a Mac, a PC, a tablet. It doesn't matter. If you've got an internet connection or Wi-Fi connection, you're good to go. Same for your customers. They don't have to download apps. They don't have to do any extra. If they can click on a text, they're going to be rocking and rolling. So you can text any number in the world. We have folks that are doing international moves, military moves, like Beau mentioned, corporate moving. So you can, send that text and put in the customer's name. I'm just going to text myself for speed here. So put in the customer's name and then a message. You can have a company default message, or some people kind of get, they're weird about links. So you might say like, hi Ryan, this is James. If the customer's name is Ryan. So what'll happen is a text will go out. They can click the text link, allow the camera, and we're going to be seeing each other. I'm going to send that to myself in just a minute. The next way that our movers are using this is called a video Dropbox. So imagine you've got someone that's in their office, they're like, hey, I'm going to be moving from New York City down to Pittsburgh, and you're like, great, let me send you a text. Oh, I'm in the office, I can't get to you right now. No worries, we're going to send you a text. When you get back home or to the apartment, go ahead and click that text, allow the link, and walk us through that apartment or house, and we're going to see that. And the third way that customers are using this is they have right here, I'll show you, you can click a link. So you can click this link and it'll send a form to the customer. And the customer, you can have this, we have a lot of our customers that have this right on their website, where they'll go to their website, say, hey, I want to get moved. You can change this, like, hey, let us know the details. They put their first name, last name, phone number in, their email, then a comment, say, I moved from New York City to Pittsburgh, and it will automatically send them a text. Your staff doesn't have to do anything. And the customer will get the directions. It's easy, and they can walk around, and then your team can follow up and close that business. Again, trying to expedite hello to cash. Ryan, did you have a thought? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I do have a quick question for you, James. I just know that this was a piece when I was doing virtual surveys, at least when I first started doing those, is when the customer's in the house on their Wi-Fi or their 4G, I mean, if we're up to 10 LTE, 5 LTE, where we're at with that, and they walk into the garage or they go in the basement or the attic. How does LiveSwitch kind of work with switching from a, because that was my biggest pain point, was we just get cut off, or they go into the garage and boop, and I've got to send them another link and we've got to start over. So how does that work? How does that work with you all?
Yeah, so for what I was showing you, where the customer puts in their name and they get an automatic text, you could walk right into, let's say you had a big commercial warehouse and in the middle of it was nothing, was no Wi-Fi, no cellular, you're in a dead zone. No worries, as it's recording, as you walk right back into Wi-Fi or cellular, it'll still catch that and still upload it. So with those video Dropbox, with that form, we can work even if they don't have internet service. So if you're sending, let's say you send your team member, like, hey, before you touch grandma's armoire there or that pool table, click that link for me. This is internal. The team member can click that link and do a video, take snapshots really quick of that pool table, and there you've got it. And in case we want to reduce claims, we want to show customers, hey, it's timestamped and everything. I'll show you that in a second. That's doesn't matter if you lose signal. Now, when I'm doing a one-to-one call, which is what I'm going to do to myself, we do need a consistent Wi-Fi, but it doesn't have to be strong. It can be really low. If someone's on that 3G, no problem. We do folks are doing remote moves. People may be living out in the country. That's not a problem either. But for those ones where it's live, you do need to maintain a stable connection, but it doesn't need to be much. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this thing off. What it's going to do is it's going to send me a text. My text right there. See, I've got my text. Now I'm ready. If you can see on my screen, I'm ready to receive the customer. And that's on the customer in this case, and the mover. The mover you see on my screen, and then with me, you get the text. So I just click the text link. It launches a browser. Very simple. It's probably hard to see, but it's asking me to allow my camera. I haven't downloaded anything, and I'm going to be moved right into this meeting, which you'll see this happen right there. And there I am. You can see my situation. And as a mover, I have a little camera button, so I can smile, take a picture. If I'm pointing it at the let's think. If I can point it at the guitar, I'm going to move the guitar. Sure, I'm taking pictures along the way, right? And so I'm capturing the recorded video, capturing the camera, and the mover, your staff has that ability. Now that let's end the call. Thank you. We're going to move you. Here's your quote, $1,200. We got you for this date. Done. What it's going to do, that entire session is recorded in conversations. And I'll show you. Here's the conversation I had this morning with Sanjeev. He's College Hunks mover, and we did this together. And look, he showed me his desk. I'm moving some balloons, Hey, let's say if these are the pictures that we took, and I'll show you what I just did a second ago, but you can even crop it. You're like, oh, I want to move this green thing. The green thing. Apply. It's going to crop the image, and now it's bubble tape. You see, I didn't know what it was at first, but I cropped in there, and now I'm removing bubble tape. All right. The other thing is that conversation I just had with myself here. My self-guided one. Here I am. Here's the video I took. Happened right there. Boom. That's what I just took. And then here's the pictures I took. There's the couch we're moving, right? So I can click on the couch. I see the timestamp, the date, even before my guys touch it, before we wrap that couch. Here's the state of it. I can get in there and start taking pictures of it. And I can see all of the pictures I took. I can share them, delete them. I can share this video. I can make notes here. That way we're documented, reducing those claims. Use it for training. Before you wrap the couch, guys, go ahead and have, Johnny, record Billy wrapping it. And that way, when we have new staff, you can share that video. This is how we wrap couches. This is how we take care of pool tables. This is how we talk to customers and record a sales call. You have a thought, Ryan?
I do. It just sparked something here. Seeing that cropping feature. You want to talk about a game changer for claims potentially. Again, you got my head spinning all over the place here, but the ability to go ahead and if the claim is made, you could go ahead and crop out your couch there and say, hey, did the dog chew that up or did we do that? I mean, that's really, really, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
right there. I can file that crop. Boom. Because you're taking these stills in, high def. Wow, and you have the recorded video as well. So you got the recorded video, the play-by-play, and that. And it all can be sent right into the move management software. Everything works hand in glove, right? So that's it. I'm going to stop showing. I just want to do a quick demo as folks really like to see that. And so I want to say thank you again to Beau, Ryan. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We're going to follow up with the recording of this if you want to share. And we really appreciate your time. And we wanted to give back some golden nuggets. I know you guys are right in the heart of busy season. So good luck. And thanks again. We appreciate having you guys.
Thanks, James.
Have a great season.